Hello, Savannah, and welcome to another edition of Kandily Kesha. We are coming to you a little late this evening. We had a handful of tasks to take care of, but we are delighted to be able to make it in just one more time. I have a special guest tonight in the person of Dr. Leonard Smalls. We're going to talk about some local politics, give you some updates on the latest, not the greatest, but the latest. And we will talk about his mission as on behalf of the Weeping Time Coalition to preserve the land. Lots of updates coming with regard to some maneuvering that took place behind the scenes. For those of you who do not know, the Weeping Time is the site of the largest slave sale in the history of America. 429 persons were ripped from their homes, from their families, mothers, wives, sisters, brothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, even infants. And so this happened right here in Savannah, Georgia, off of Augusta Avenue. It's near Brock Elementary School. The highway divides the property. And so Pastor Small will be here to tell us about the latest developments with regard to the land. One of the things that Alderwoman Bryant Lanier has been working tirelessly since she's been elected is to create economic drivers for the first district. The first district in the Western Corridor is by far the most underserved community in Savannah, and it has been for over 20 years. In addition, it's a community that's riddled with a lot of the criminal activity we experience in our city, as well as a lot of the blight and poverty. Just as the Eastern Wharf was by design, just as the Starling District was by design, just as any community or development in our community, it took planning, it took development. It was by design. And so is the poverty, the lack, the blight, the despair we see in the first district. It's by design. And in an effort to change that, it takes political will, one, and it takes know-how. We know how. The person who is assigned to that district, Alderwoman Lanier, she knows exactly how to turn that community around. It just will take political will. Now, we are looking at a development in that community, one of the largest developments probably in the history of Savannah, local government, the arena. The arena supposedly is going to be an economic driver. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The arena will prove to be the greatest enigma to Cloverdale, Carver Village, and Brickyard. In 10, 15, 20 short years from now, those neighborhoods will not be what we know them to be today. Between the environmental injustice that will take place, the traffic, the threat of gentrification, the elements and the dynamics in those communities, the culture of that community, the demography of the community, it is going to change, and it will change drastically, much like as it is before our very eyes. Will we give up? No. Will we stop advocating for those economic drivers? Will we stop advocating for the city services that those residents pay for via their tax dollars? No, we will not give up. And so we need residents in that area, Cloverdale, Carver Village, Brickyard. We need you, one, to join your local neighborhood associations. Once a month, Cloverdale, Carver Village, and Brickyard host neighborhood association meetings, as well as a West Side neighborhood association meeting that takes place at the Moses Jackson Center. We need you to plug in and engage. I am just one vote and one voice. Alderwoman Lanier is just one vote and one voice. But we have noticed that when citizens mobilize, engage, I'm not doing that tonight, Brother Teray. We have learned when citizens mobilize and engage, you get the attention you deserve. Oftentimes, it's not always a win, but we have been successful in slowing the process and avoiding just a full takeover. Take, for example, the Weeping Time Coalition. Last year, when we advocated for reduction of our property taxes, to roll back the property taxes, that was only because the citizens rose up. Due to some undercover maneuvering this season, we were not so successful. Although there were a handful of citizens, it wasn't enough, and it wasn't as timely as it should have been. It takes a lot of investment. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort that a lot of people don't have. But we are grateful for the citizens who did take the time to come downtown to City Hall. A lot has been said about the lack of representation at City Hall, despite the fact that we do not have offices, despite the fact that we don't have adequate supplies and staffing by way of administrative support. Alderwoman Miller Blakely and I serve in an at-large capacity. That means we are responsive to the entire city. And so even with those limited resources, we are able to reach people. We are still able to serve people and do it very effectively. We are attending the neighborhood association meetings, listening and hearing our citizens, but most importantly, our presence allows us to advocate for citizens as well as provide education. When I campaigned for office, did so on a platform of education, advocating, and accessibility. In educating, we recognize that the Savannah citizens are pretty much plugged in and engaged. They are smart people, intelligent individuals. So it didn't take very much educating, but education for me is being able to regurgitate information that I learned of at City Hall and relay it to the residents. So in an ordinary capacity, or if another person, or as other persons have occupied this role, the level of information sharing and the level of knowledge that we provide to our residents is paramount. Advocacy, whatever citizens need, whatever they want, if it is within the reach of our city services and the scope of the professionals who work for the city of Savannah, that's what we advocate for. In addition, we advocate for their needs, their desires. The West Side citizens stated that they did not want the use to change for the Bartow property, also known as the Weeping Time property. They did not want that use to change because, one, they want to preserve the land, and two, they would far better desire an economic driver as opposed to a transitional shelter program. So I have stated that 10 years of my career involves providing shelter to homeless families with children through the Interfaith Hospitality Network, now known as Family Promise. I too advocated for those families with children for housing, childcare, and employment, but we was also advocating to identify a location of which to build on and operate out of. I was met with a lot of the resistance that the Salvation Army is now experiencing. I understood that the sound of having a homeless shelter in a neighborhood is not pleasing for some people. So, coming from my background and experience, I was not as inclined to oppose the mission of the Salvation Army in as much as I was concerned with the fact that we were removing citizens who needed the Salvation Army services. We were moving them farther away from those additional services they would need to access, like healthcare, childcare, employment services, services offered by the Department of Family and Children Services, a bus route, so that they can gain access to employment. Moving citizens from the Montgomery Street corridors all the way out on the west side off of Augusta Avenue, where there is a food desert, a healthcare desert, a housing deficiency already. So you see, we are putting a pre-existing vulnerability on top of vulnerability. And that's just not smart. When it comes to identifying the location for not just a shelter program, but any social services program, this is Human Services 101. You first have to advocate for a location that is conducive for your clients to be able to access not just your services, but the other services they may need to overcome whatever deficiency they're in. So with that, we want to introduce Dr. Leonard Smalls, who's going to talk more about the Weeping Time Project and some of the developments that have come to light as of late. But before we get into the Weeping Time, I also asked him to come tonight just so we can just talk shop about local government and politics here in Savannah. My arrival into politics only came but for a set of circumstances that forced me out of my job and out of my career. I had no desire at all to ever do anything remotely close to politics or serve in elected office. In fact, I abhor politics and politicians. You see, for decades, I raised money for local charities to help homeless families, to help victims, to help youth and seniors, to do community work. And now I was raising money for politics to buy yard signs and commercial time. That sucks. It sucks. And so I am proud that my opposition outraised me almost 100 to 1. And it gave me great joy to know that I was coming into an office where money did not buy elections. And that's what gives me so much hope about our Savannah politics and our electorate. You are engaged, you are plugged in, you are knowledgeable. But what we want to start doing now, and this is where I want you to come in, Pastor, we have to start changing the culture and the mindset, just tweak it a little bit, because our citizens are already there. We are in this mindset and we have a culture to where if we don't like a politician, we vote them out. If we are not satisfied with their service, we vote them out. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. If your elected official is not providing what they stated they were going to provide or doing what they said they were going to do within their power, you should vote them out. But you should not wait until another election season to get what it is that you need. What happens is our citizens do without for a period of 4 years when we're talking about county politics and city politics. You should not have to wait 4 years to be without what you need or to be without adequate representation. You should not have to wait until another election season. We need you to mobilize like right now. We need you to mobilize right now. And I know this isn't popular with Pastor Small because he's like, nope, they're out. They're just out. We're done. And yes, the line has been drawn in the sand with some of us, with some of the politicians. The line has been drawn in the sand, and they have made a decision to say whose side they're on. And that side, unfortunately, is not the side of the citizens. But even in that, you still have the power. Fifth District Coalition was a perfect example of a community rising up and making a demand. They went on a letter writing campaign. They called politicians out publicly. They hosted sessions. They had prayer vigils. They fast, so many things that groups and organizations can do. The Nehemiah Project, they have made a demand for the city of Savannah to earmark some of the millions we are receiving via our ARPA funds, the American Relief Protection Act. They've made a demand. It's documented. It's on the books. And so do you always get those demands met? Not all of the time, but you know what? You may come close. We have football coaches, little league coaches, baseball, basketball. You all have a need. You desire more from your city where our recreation department is. But we are making these demands in silos. Remember, as your council person, we have one voice and one vote. We cannot do it without a collective whole. But when you're making these demands, you are creating petitions. The Weeping Time Coalition is another perfect example of what happens when citizens rise up. We have not lost the effort where the Weeping Time is concerned. Have we been slowed down a little bit? Yes, but we're not giving up and we're not giving in. So that's a lesson for tonight. I think Dr. Smalls is having some technical difficulty here tonight. So we're going to keep chatting a little bit. So the latest thing that occurred during our council meeting, which was huge, was our millage rate. A lot of citizens were refused access to chambers. As I stated, Alderwoman Blakely and I, probably since June of 2020, if not May of 2020, we have been in chambers every single meeting. In fact, we will actually go to City Hall for some of the additional meetings that we have. It's more conducive to be at work when you are working. It is unfortunate that our offices have been dedicated to something else other than what the intended purposes are. The mayor has renovated his office with SPLOST dollars that was designated for historic preservation funds, and we have nothing. But we're still here. We're still here. So whenever you want to come downtown, when we are having meetings in chambers, you are welcome to do so. And I want to apologize publicly to those citizens who were denied access to our meeting. In addition, the meeting before that, the millage rate item was put on the agenda around the 8 o'clock hour when our meeting was actually advertised for 6:30. That's pretty abusive. When you have open meetings and we want our citizens to come down to City Hall, we have to plan better, but we have to also recognize that all of these are a part of a master plan to maneuver and to close citizens out. So we advocated strongly during our town hall, both Alderwoman Miller Blakely and myself, we used the platforms of our shows. Can you hear me, Pastor Small? Whenever you can hear me, you just chime in. I'm just talking my way through here tonight. We use our platforms to inform citizens that there was a potential to actually roll back the millage rate so that citizens would not experience an increase in their property taxes. But the mayor and 6 members of council decided to keep it the same. It was advertised and pitched as if it were not going to be a increase to property taxes. But when you get your tax bill this year, the media has reported that the council voted to keep the millage rate the same, which is 12.79. And that is as far from the truth. I did not vote for it. Alderwoman Miller Blakely did not vote for it, and Alderwoman Bryant Lanier. It's heartbreaking, really. You raise resources from corporate and local titans for them to whitewash their name. Yeah, pretty much. So we and those local titans are only, we now learn that those people were probably just reinvesting taxpayer dollars back into the Rape Crisis Center. But it's a crazy cycle how all of this stuff works and come together. But we were, okay, you say we shouldn't have to wait 4 years to vote them out. Well, it's a lot that needs to be done. Yes, Marie Jones, and you need to get together with OAA, Overcomers Alumni Association, not offenders. The Overcomers Alumni Association. You get together with other former offenders. You get together with other individuals who are re-entering society, and you make a demand to the local city council, first, to create programs so that individuals won't reoffend. But second, when people are re-entering into society, they have a place to go. We provide some semblance of aid. Thank you so much, Miss Melinda. We provide some semblance of aid to them so that we not make it easier for them. We just make it possible for them, But anyway, it was pegged that keeping that millage rate the same was not going to tell us why term limits haven't been put in place. Well, as you know, Mr. McMasters, we have been advocating for several progressive policy initiatives, and we have them ignored. Just before Michael Brown left out, I guess it was another lie he told, I presented a resolution for a wage ordinance. You can't get on. And so that has never seen the light of day. It was supposed to be on the last agenda. And this wage resolution basically would acknowledge that we as a city will not pay anyone less than $15 an hour. And in setting that standard, while we cannot do anything by way of the statute here in Georgia, which sets the minimum wage, we could flex our political power and our political influence. And Mr. Page, the rate has not changed yet. We're advocating for at least $15 an hour, which is really just a standard wage. It's not really a livable wage, even here for Savannah, because it's a play on words, but it's an increase. Well, we want more than a play on words, right? We want to have some teeth to it. This is no game. It's time out to stop. It's time out for playing politics. We really need to put teeth to some serious progressive policies like term limits. Why are term limits good? Term limits are good so that politicians don't get in office and lose their mind. All right. In addition, if I'm serving in a 4-year term with the possibility of one more term, it's less likely for what my thoughts and my ideals are about elected office and public service for people who are younger than me or more experienced than me. This is an opportunity for them to be able to get in the game, and so that we have better representation. I think when politicians get so accustomed to being in office for 20, 30 years, you start to create a culture. And that's what we have within our local government. Yes, I was denied putting that on the agenda. Once again, Mr. McMasters, once we saw it written up and Mr. Brown told me that it was going to be on the next agenda, it was not. It was not. And so we don't put a wage resolution on the agenda, but we do put on the agenda a proposal to keep the millage rate the same at 12.79, which essentially will raise people's property taxes. What does that mean? Even for you who do not own property, that means your monthly expenses could potentially go up as well, because if your landlord's property taxes increase, they essentially will pass that cost on to you. And this is not simply relegated to homeowners. This is also inclusive of individuals who rent space for their businesses. So small and marginalized businesses could potentially experience an increase as well. Some may say, well, it's a slight increase. A slight increase, nonetheless, is an increase, but it's the philosophy, in addition to the cost constraint, that is really not palatable. And so if we refuse to have conversations with our giant partners, like the Savannah College of Art and Design, who owns over 160 properties in this city and do not pay a dime in property taxes. Right now, me and you pay more in taxes than they do. If we're not going to have conversations with our tourism industry, where we, by statute, only have to give them 40% of our hotel motel tax. We collect nearly $20 million a year in hotel motel taxes here in Savannah. By way of the Georgia state statute, 40% has to go to a chamber of commerce so that they can market the city of Savannah and create tourism products, if you will. So why are we giving them 50% if the state statute says 40%? Again, winners taking all. The top earners at the chamber, their salaries are $339 and somewhere around $436,000. $436 and $339, and I think down from there is about $270 something. These are the three top executives with the chamber. They make more than our city manager, who cuts the check to them. Our city manager is set to earn $260,000, but he writes a check to an entity where their three top earners make more than he does. Takers. And again, why are we giving them 50% when the statute only calls for 40%? Why are we not putting forth stronger requirements when it comes to our partnership with the ports? Most communities where there are ports, they have policies in place where they are sharing responsibility to the community. The ports cannot exist without Savannah. Try getting there without coming through our waterway. Try getting there without abusing our streets with your large trucks. So this isn't about punishing our partners. This is about creating a partnership where we recognize that the winners can no longer take all. And we are not talking about handouts here. We are talking about giving people their fair share. If we really want a community that's going to be harmonious, we have to recognize that there is a greater responsibility for us to forego elite relationships and focus on those individuals in our community who cannot gain access. How can we make the selection how can we make the selection process more transparent and clear? Contact our clerk's office. Our clerk, Mr. Massey, he does a wonderful job with organizing announcements for the various boards. And when those terms are due and up, that's the clerk of council, Mr. Mark Massey. Now, we also learned, and I'm disappointed that Pastor Small cannot follow the money, Ramona. Yes, follow the money. He can't join us tonight. We learned that during our process of trying to preserve the weeping time, the mayor, Van Johnson, unilaterally appointed 3 members, one from his campaign committee, appointed 3 members to the Housing Authority of Savannah Board. He did this without notifying the council, and he did this without putting forth the individuals publicly. That has never happened with any of the boards that the city of Savannah participates with. So you have to ask the question, why? Also, more recently, we were told that the archaeological study done by Brockington and Associates, who were supposed to evaluate the land to determine if it in fact was the weeping time, that report was supposed to go to a department within the Department of Community Affairs. It never made it there. But the National Historical Review Committee or organization they actually sent the report to, basically, the appointments were very shady, John. They contacted us via a letter. That letter was supposed to be, according to Michael Brown's memo, that letter was supposed to be submitted to council within 30 days. This was around July 4th, July 6th. So around 30 days would have been August 6th to 8th. And the report actually came back on August 1st. And they just sent the report to us on Friday after 5. So the report actually came before Michael Brown abruptly resigned, before the new city manager came in. And supposedly, according to news reports, Michael Brown abruptly resigned because I stated to him or called him a effing fool, which is not true. I don't know what fool, would leave a job that pays $20,000 a month because a little lady called him an effing fool. And although that was imagined and not true, sir, you left your job because, one, you didn't get your way with the fairgrounds project because you and your little boys could not agree. That's the real reason, sir. And I cannot wait to tell you all about all of the maneuvering and the shenanigans that's going on with the fairground project. But you also knew that this information in this report was not going to be favorable. And so again, you lied, and you all lied to the media. And so the name of this game is to deflect and to deny. That's the chief mode of operation for this administration. And so what we are going to continuously do in spite of that, right, no minutes existed. Exactly. And so what we're going to do, we're going to stay the course. There isn't a lot because of the new rules of council that the mayor and his Pocket 4 created. There isn't a lot that we can do by way of proposing of policies, because nothing changes without a policy. You're not going to get a change with a task force. You're not going to get a change with a study or committee. We have been establishing task force, studying data for in excess of almost 30 years now. There isn't a problem that exists today that we don't know how and why. We get it. We got it. But what we have to do now is we have to establish how we are going to tackle it. Yes, Michael Brown was business as usual, and so was Pat Monahan. They probably will go down in history as two individuals who did the worst by way of Savannah. And it's unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. The dynamics when it comes to relationships and individuals who find themselves in these political structures is really disheartening. Very, very disheartening. I thought I knew Michael Brown. I had a fairly good rapport with him. But here's what happens with people like him. When they can't own you, and when you don't buy into their way of doing things, they attempt to sully you and discredit you and cast dispersion upon you, your work and your reputation. And so, wow, yes, there are communities, college communities, who have great best practices in how those universities invest real dollars back into community. I recently had a conversation with some executives from the Georgia ports who took issue with the fact that I acknowledge that the western corridors of Savannah, particularly Woodville, has suffered environmentally, have suffered with regard to the infrastructure. That community has suffered between CSX and the ports. It's awful. It's awful. And you know what? You're out of time. We have no more time to listen to your whining about what you don't want to do and what you're not going to do. Well, I'm going to tell you, the day will come when you do pay up. You know, we are at a juncture where in our time, citizens, as I stated before, they're not waiting anymore. And we're not just taking what we can get. We are taking what is due to the people. And so when you drive through these communities, we will see that it's not by accident that some of these corridors are the way they are. The things that are happening in the ports, the things that are, in Woodville, in the western corridors of Savannah, even some of the despair and the lack on the south side of Savannah, it's by design. It's by design. And we cannot allow these neighborhoods to continuously be held back because of special and unique relationships. We are so inclined to be a friend and a fan of a politician. We relegate ourselves more to proximity by way of relationship, friendship, and kinship that we will put before harmony in our neighborhood, our very freedoms, and the luxuries that we should enjoy by way of a community free of gun violence, at least reducing it, crime, poverty. You know, you shouldn't like me so much that you can't hold me accountable. You shouldn't like me or be my friend so much to the extent that you agree and uphold me, even in the face of me making a decision that will adversely affect your neighborhood or hold your neighborhood back. So back to what I was saying about the weeping time. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. I was hoping Pastor Small would be in. I was trying to filibuster a little bit. Who are the new boys hired at City Hall? I don't know. I don't know, Ms. Harris, Dr. Harris. Yeah, we have had some unique hires. Some, people have come in and really they have been promoted. And why is it that we have, yes, Rebecca, why is it that we have people who will, I don't know, John. I don't know. I have no idea. And I want people to know, for full disclosure, my husband worked for SCAD for about 20 years. And I was working in the world of nonprofit in that time. And not one time did SCAD ever do anything for any of the nonprofits I worked for. But at that time, I had no idea that they were not paying property taxes. And oh, newsflash, by the way, Van Johnson attempted to sabotage my husband's position at SCAD as well. And fortunately for us, my husband has other talents, so we're okay. And that's the thing about folks here in Savannah. You know, we have a very small community here. So it's very disheartening to know that just because you disagree with somebody or you attempt to hold them accountable by way of their work, they blackball you or try to hurt you financially. And I've been a victim of that. And fortunately for me, we are not where we want to be, but their traps and tricks, they haven't been successful. And we're still advocating and seeking legal remedy for some of those pieces. But that's the type of nastiness that is created in these silos and in these little pockets of politics where we find ourselves. So if you are going through something at work, facing a challenge, facing a struggle, I don't know how. I don't know how. I know it's only but by the grace of God. I am a strong person of faith, and it is only by way of that faith that I find myself reaching beyond the break and holding on. And I encourage you all to get people in your ear who will tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. It's very difficult to find people who are loyal. If you have one friend, you're blessed. But get you a loyal friend or family member to encourage you and to help you along the way. And if you can, if Savannah, if folks have blackballed you here, look elsewhere. I tell people who I work with who are trying to adjust and reestablish themselves and find their career path, look beyond Savannah. Look beyond Savannah. Look beyond Georgia. Even if you have to leave and come back, sometimes that's what it takes. Because it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And I don't know, this path that I'm on, it was essentially just put before me. I woke up one day and he said, go. And I said, no. And he said, go. And I said, okay. Yep. And that's my loyalty right there, Miss Betty Robinson. Thank you for everything, Auntie. So you have to, listen to that voice, and it's scary. It's very, very scary because I'm accustomed to being in control and having a plan and knowing where I'm going. And right now, I kind of feel like I'm in a holding pattern. I just want to. I know how to get this done. I know how to do it. I know how to make it happen. But this politics, this is a dangerous game, a very, very dangerous game. But they say if he sends you, he will equip you and he will keep you. And so that's what we are banking on. Okay, so let's finish up with the millage rate. And what does that mean? What does that mean for Savannahans in Savannah? That means that if your property taxes, if your assessed value, if I love you too, Tamika. I love you too. I love you too. It's good to see you. If your property tax, hi, Malvise. If your assessed value is increased, which most of our assessed values, yes, ma'am, Ms. Jones, most of our assessed values will increase because real estate is booming. Mr. Barnwell, Chief, if your property just say was valued at $100,000 and the millage rate is 12.79, let's see, let's do a little bit of cheating here, because I majored in social sciences in college because I'm not good at math and science. If your property value was $100,000 last year and you multiplied times our millage rate of 12.79, your tax bill will be $1,279 is what that means. Okay. And so
See if I can hear you.
we didn't raise the millage rate, but if we keep it the same and your property value goes up, oh, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. If your property value goes up, just say to a $105,000, and you multiply that times 2.79. Yes, your property taxes went up. And so the one thing I said was that it was disingenuous. And Mr. Edward Moody of WSAV, with his little messy self, had the audacity to post on the Facebook chat of the city of Savannah my verbiage, sir. Let's not pull your bloopers out. But you know what that proves, Mr. Moody? Y'all give me this minute with this little man. That proves that you have a particular ominous against me, and you are incapable of reporting in a non-biased way when it comes to me. So we're in a live City of Savannah council meeting, and you are not following what is germane to the meeting at that time, which was the property taxes and the millage rate. But instead, you would post a comment on my word choice as opposed to focusing on the millage rate. So what I want to say to you and the other irresponsible, unethical journalists in this town who seek to sully the reputations of those who do not uphold status quo politics, of us who are not going along to get along with the establishment. Yeah, you know us, the ones who don't take the dinners at the Chatham Club and the Pink House, those of us who are not taking the rides in the private jets, those of us who are not actively collecting campaign contributions. And that's what you all should do. Go to the City of Savannah's website, go to the clerk's office tab, the clerk of council, and pull up our campaign disclosures. And you look at who is actively receiving campaign contributions and who they are receiving those contributions from. You will in fact see that individuals are receiving money whereby their voting record on council matches their donor dollars. So this is where the real meat and potatoes are here, if we really want to get down to it, okay? And so this is what the media doesn't report on. We have media affiliates here in Savannah, both print and television, who would rather provide cover for stray politicians as opposed to providing coverage. And the disadvantage to that is we do our citizens a disservice when we are not accurately and adequately reporting the news in a way in which people can not only be informed, but they can be armed with information so that they are holding all of us accountable. That's all I have. I'm so glad my grandparents finally canceled their subscription. I wish they could turn the TV off now. But anyway, Pastor, can you hear me? This is not going to happen tonight. I feel like a talking head. Yes. Campaign contributions match their voting record. And that means if a petitioner for special use, like an attorney, is advocating on behalf of a petitioner who wants to set up shop somewhere, or someone who wants a special development deal, they just pad the pockets of the politicians and we have their vote. And if they can garner enough support from their majority on council. It happens. And we have in this town, we have what I like to say is legacy contracts. Legacy contracts. Those are individuals at these engineering firms, the law firms. They make their dollars. They've made their legacy. Their children's children have lived off of local government. So they're the ones who's actually getting the handout and the subsidy. Those are the real welfare recipients. So, no, Miss Marshall, I don't want to. No. We want to do this post one thing this term, and we're gonna give Savannah back to Savannah. But well, I want to do what God tells me to do, so let me just shut up. Listen, do we have any more questions? How much time do I have, Mr. Hall? Let me tell you something. Today, Mr. Julius Hall officially qualified for mayor of Port Wentworth. I'm so excited for him. He is a perfect example of, starting from the bottom, now he's here. And so thank you for your tenacity and stick-to-itness and just your willingness to serve. I don't know how it is you do. Yes, Alderwoman Blakely, I can't say it like I can't say it like you can say it, but I'm trying to give it to them as straight as I can. Pastor, I'm going to get you about not being able to get on tonight. I don't know if you can hear me. Not so much? Okay. Oh, there you are.
I can hear you.
Okay, so
can
go
you
ahead.
Hear me?
Just yes. Okay, so just give us a tiny bit of why you. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I don't think he can hear me. He has some good information.
Okay, here we go. I need to let everybody know that. Why are you calling me, Kesha?
Because I was going to tell you. Go ahead.
Listen to the deal. All right. The situation is, I'm on a very slow responding feed. So just listen to me if you can. We just got a very set of letters, of course, from the lady who they sent the study to for the weeping time. Instead of sending it to the Department of Community Affairs, they sent the letter, the study from Brockington to the architectural expert for the Department of Parks and the Park Services. So Natural Resources, Department of Natural Resources. So when they send it to the Department of Natural Resources, all that architectural lady does is figure out whether or not they actually used qualified, reasonable, professional architectural methods. It had nothing to do with whether or not it was the Weeping Time property or not. Michael Brown had said he was going to send it to the Department of Community Affairs, which is where the State Preservation Office is. The State Preservation Office has not ever received Brockington report to analyze it, review it, or approve it. So one of the things that we're going to do as a result of the fact that we sent information also to the state's chief architectural reviewer, she wrote us back a letter saying that she appreciated our thoughtfulness and our thoroughness in our assessment of their survey, because we were able to point out through their survey that it was not, that the land in question is exactly the Weeping Time property. She also said in the letter that she sent back to the Weeping Time Coalition that she was going to strongly encourage, and those were her words, the city of Savannah to work with the Weeping Time Coalition to try to solve these issues. She told us she was writing the letter to the city of Savannah on Friday. We received a letter that was sent to the city of Savannah. Now, I want you to hear this. On Friday the 13th, the day after council meeting, the interim city manager released to the city all the people, city council, and we got copies of it. But the letter had been sent on August the 1st when she gave me my letter saying she was notifying them, because I've had that letter for 2 weeks. I talked about that letter from her telling me what she had written on the town hall that Alicia and Kesha had at the Jewish Educational Alliance. Now, so we finally got the letter from that she sent to the city, and it said in part that she strongly encourages the city of Savannah to work with the Weeping Time Coalition and coalition members, other people of West Savannah, and other people from the community to try to look at these problems. Now, here is where the rubber meets the road. When that letter was sent to the city council people, it was also accompanied by a letter from interim city manager Keith Floyd saying the matter's over. It's not going to go before council anymore. You know, it was what Van's been saying 3 times prior to this, before they even got a report back from the state. So listen to me very careful, people. Not only is it not over, it's not close to over. They have several difficulties with what they did. First of all, it should have gone to an independent contractor, not somebody handpicked by the city manager, Michael Brown, who I wouldn't trust with a child. I'm just saying it as good as, because he prevaricates, he falsifies. Okay, I'm gonna tell you how it is. He lies. So on top of that, we have the situation where now what do we do? And that's what people have been asking me, Pastor Small. Okay, are we finished now? Is it over? No, it's not. It's not even near over, because we can file injunctions. We can file we can file a writ of prohibition. There are several legal tools that we could use, but the main thing is we have to get, and we're working on it, we have to get this report in front of the people who were supposed to receive the report, which is the State Preservation Board. The architectural lady does not keep historic areas. That lady works for the Department of Natural Resources. She does not work for state preservation. She does not deal with historic places. And in her letter, she basically says this thing needs to be looked at by historians or archivists, people who keep archives. And so we know for sure that this is not right. We know for sure that we've got a mess, and we're going to send. That's right. I'm in my radio studio in Eatonton, Georgia. That's why I'm having so much trouble, because I've never come. That's right. Don't roll your eyes, Kesha. I'm in Eatonton. Be nice. The Lord will bless you. And so I want everybody to, because she always tried to run my life. I love her. Lord knows I do. But here's the thing. I need people to understand what we're doing is we're going to go tomorrow over to DCA, not by letter, not by email, by big old me. Okay. Now, the way I got to Miss Black, the way I reached Miss Black was I just went up there on a dead call.
Oh boy, he was giving us some good information. So you see the level of ambiguity we are dealing with here. It's a lot of mismanagement and mishandling and misguidance.
Steve, I think I'm back in. So I'm going to let me finish. I'm going to go up tomorrow and try to see some of the people who directed me to Miss Black 2 or 3 weeks ago when I came up. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I know all the mechanisms and who we need to send our conclusions, even from their report. We do have things to add to that. We have proofs above and beyond what was submitted by Brockington. Any other city would allow a group of people who showed this much interest to at least show them what they had for them. So, and the other thing is, thank you, Alicia. Van Johnson keeps saying the property don't belong to us, the property belong to HUD. The property does not belong to HUD. We went above these local housing authority people and we contacted HUD for the region. We're in Division 4. They wrote me back directly, me, and they said to me that they put the question to 2 of their agencies and to a group of their lawyers, and they said, in the sentence is simple: this matter is between the city of Savannah, not housing authority now. HUD has nothing to do with this. It's between the city of Savannah and the Salvation Army. That's it. What Van keep playing, he tried to keep playing hide the ball. What he keeps trying to say is HUD and the Housing Authority of Savannah that's not our property.
So the long and short of it is, a lot of this information was told to council, but we have to recognize that a lot of the maneuvering is equated to what I consider gaslighting. And so when you put all these factors in the way.
Suffice it to say.
So, okay.
Okay. Suffice it to say that HUD does not own the property. The Housing Authority of Savannah doesn't own the property. At this point in time, Salvation Army actually owns the property, because even when they were negotiating with us about some other type of solution, they were very duplicitous in that they did not tell us the property had been purchased all the way back in May. So the commander of who is supposed to.
So listen, I don't know how much time Pastor has, but what I was saying, a lot of what he is describing, I am reluctant to engage in going down these rabbit holes. The whole archaeological study, it's the Weeping Time property, it's not the Weeping Time property. Here's where I start and stop with all of this. I start and stop with where the residents of the West Side are. I start and stop.
Thank you. I did the best
with what the residents of the West Side wanted. They said they did not want the use to change. So that should be enough. They did not want the use to change. For me, it didn't matter, because I am only in this seat primarily because of residents of the West Side.
I've been doing the best I can with what I got. Suffice it to say, we are going to sue the city of Savannah in order to block this situation. We're going to be filing a suit, restraining order, and we're going to also cite obstruct. 2 or 3 different things. We've got a writ of prohibition, and the fact that there are some conflicts of interest that we will be pointing out. I apologize for the slow media I have up here in Eatonton, but God bless you. I just want everybody to know we're not finished. We're not close to finished. And the Weeping Time property will be preserved. God bless you with your patience. And I apologize for my slow internet connections up here in the beautiful middle Georgia Lake area. Thank God for you, Kesha. And thank God for all of you who listen and pay attention, because we are woke. God bless you. Love you. I'm out.
Thank you so much. So what I was saying, I appreciate the display that Pastor Small shared in terms of giving us an update on the recent developments. And you hear how this gets murkier and murkier and murkier as we go along. And so that's why I am less inclined to engage and go down these dark holes, as opposed to just sticking to the primary issue and keeping the main thing the main thing. And the primary issue and the main thing here is the fact that residents of the West Side stated that they did not want the use to change, and they were not inclined to create an opportunity for that sacred ground to be used as a homeless shelter, if you will, in addition to the concern about the pre-existing vulnerabilities. That was enough. As Alderwoman for Post 1 of the city of Savannah, we are led by the citizens first. We are citizens led. We are servants first. Before leadership, we are servants. And in an effort to make good on that servitude, and in an effort to really listen to the residents of the West Side, I was more inclined to say, okay, the people don't want it. The residents out Little Neck Road didn't want those additional developments occurring to that landfill. The residents of the South Side, Wilshire, they did not want those houses to be turned into a strip mall with a liquor store. That's where I start. I start with where the residents are. I don't always vote with the district representative. I vote with the voice of the people. And so when citizens rise up and say they want something, they need something, they desire something, that's where we start and stop. And because myself, Alderwoman Miller Blakely, Alderwoman Bryant Lanier, and the mayor, the West Side had 4 votes on lock, because those 4 positions, the 2 at-large positions, Post 1 and Post 2, the mayor and their district representative, they put us here. On November of 2019, they sent 3 of us to City Hall. And on December 3rd, they selected a new mayor. That's enough. That was enough to say, you know what? These people need to have our ear, and we need to be their voice and represent them on council. And so when we don't do that, when we as the elected body, when we give up on the citizens, we can expect that they will give up on us as well. And so creating this pathway, this diversion, this distraction in the archaeological study, and saying that the Weeping Time property is really not the land, that's hogwash. That's busybody work. That's just something to take us off course and to take our minds off of the greater goal here. And so with all of that said, we want you to continuously stay plugged in. It's not easy, but it's necessary. We're doing the best we can with what we have. And we're so grateful for this platform and ATR, which encourages me to keep at this Kandily Kesha thing. I tell y'all, I am not a journalist. I am not a host. I abhor this. I like bringing you information, but this task of being here every week and being a talking head, I would rather be doing the work and letting the media report accurately on the work that is actually being done, and not the work that is being fabricated, if you will. and packaged in a way in which people are being misled. So listen, with that, if there are no more questions, did I miss anything, Mr. Hall? We'll try to go back in the chat and respond where we can. Yes, Alderwoman Miller Blakely. Just like that. Yeah. Listen, I'm loving it. It's a lot. Thank you, Tyler. I'm loving it. It's a lot, but we're going to get this done. In the meantime, you all stay with us. You are welcome, Miss Davis. We're trying. But you know, at some juncture, we want to do more than speak up and speak out. But you know what? I said to somebody the other day, maybe we just have to accept the fact that this is our role. Because prior to this, you had politicians in office acting like they were in a minority during the last administration, acting as if they couldn't get anything done because they were in the minority, but they were not making any noise. They were not being considered rebel rousers, and they sure were not blocking and stopping anything because it all got done. We can get the youth involved. We invite everybody. We need all hands on deck every Sunday at 4:00 at the Solomon Temple Church of God in Christ on Augusta Avenue. Google it, Solomon Temple Church of God in Christ on Augusta Avenue at 4:00. You are so right. We do need more youth involved. I feel like if more of our children understood and knew about the weeping time and the atrocity that occurred in 1859 on that land right here in Savannah, Georgia, they would have a lot more pride. They would have a lot more understanding of the plight and the efforts it took for people to overcome the atrocities that our people experience. So yes, please bring your children out. And you know what, Weeping Time Coalition, Ms. Rebecca, we may want to start creating some programming or special activities for our youth. It would be my hope and my desire. Thank you, John, Mr. John. It would be my hope and my desire that children who attend Brock Elementary, I saw something like they had a pop-up little advertisement when you walk in the door at Brock Elementary. I hope every student who goes into that building recognize the land that they're on. I hope every administrator and every teacher and every staffer, I hope they realize the land that they are on. And it is my hope that in them learning about it, it gives them a sense of pride to do better and to be better, recognizing the plight of those 429 people. And that's just the 429 that we think we know about. That doesn't include the additional individuals who may have lost their lives while in transit. We wanted Pastor Small to talk a lot about his experience with the reconciliation meeting they had with the descendants from the Butler plantation. It was a handshake of sorts, a peacemaking, I should say. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for your loyalty. In that the one of the descendants spoke of how, as a history teacher, she took her class to the museum in Washington, the African American Museum in Washington. And in reading the history of here in the coastal region and Butler Plantation, she recognized that that was her family. And she didn't know about the stain and the darkness of her family being slave owners and that slave sale. And so there was a meeting of the minds and hearts of sorts, and beautiful, beautiful. I can't eloquently talk about it or articulate it here. Like Dr. Teray or Elder Lotson or Pastor Small, Pastor Gordon, or Alderwoman Lanier could. So we're going to have them back to share with you all a little bit more. But, you know, this is not just African American history. This is our history. This is Savannah's history. This is our nation's history. And so we have become so passionate about galvanizing people from all walks of life to engage and get involved in this effort. More than engaging and getting involved, we want you to know about it. So if you have visitors and family members who come to Savannah, you make sure you send them out to that West Side corridor on Augusta Avenue and take them to the marker that's there on Augusta Avenue. Have them Google and pull up information related to the weeping time, because it's time. It is time. And it's our time here tonight. Sorry to be coming to you a little bit late, but y'all hang with me, stay with me. We're going to, continue at this Kandily Kesha thing for as long as I can. But we got to draw our strength from somewhere, and we draw it from you every time we're here. So thank you so much, ATR. Thank you for everyone who chimed in tonight and listened in. I hope somewhere in the middle of something myself or Pastor Small said you got. So listen, you guys be good to each other. And until next Monday, I love you, Savannah.